You're insane. It hasn't been done in 5,000 years. Hakra suppressed the urge to laugh. I can do it, Derek replied confidently. Gordaktakita, you're a great fool. Do you know who the last person to climb that peak was? Do you? Hakra shook his massive bluish head and took another drink from his flask. The fumes from its sulfurous contents curled in opaque white tendrils into the bar's darkened interior. Rows of dim red lights produced just enough light to walk, slither, or skitter across the room. Though, when it was this crowded, you were bound to run into someone. You just better hope it wasn't a boomalid. They'd gut you like a Bothic passon and grind your bones into powder. If you had bones, that is. Some alien. Derek shrugged. Some alien. Hakra let out a thunderous laugh, so loud that the flask rattled against the surface of the scarred table. Its contents hissed and fumed with renewed vigor. You speak of Vorn the giant, human. The greatest warrior the galaxy has ever known. I didn't know him, Derek replied. And look, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to climb to the summit. Hakra shook his head. Human, I know you think yourself impressive, but if you go to the third moon of Orcs, you'll die before you reach the peak of Mount Zod. There are wild beasts at the base, they'll eat you and shit out what remains. If you pass them, there are crazed hermits that will steal you away into deep dark layers and rend your skin from your body and wear it like a coat. Then there is the Windy Pass, which will blow you from the cliff face like a leaf from a Datic frond. As he spoke, Hakra noted that the smile on Derek's face was growing larger and larger. Foolish thing. They're all foolish, these humans. It's why they lost their homeworld. It's why so many of them are gladiators and mercenaries. Gordaktakita, what does it take to scare one of them? If you somehow make it past that, you must conquer the ice flow. Hakra smiled dangerously. That isn't water, mind you. It's liquid nitrogen, a whole lake of it. It bubbles up from deep underground. Your hide will freeze solid in seconds. Derek nodded, as if he had already been told all about these things. Hakra was growing more determined every moment to explain to this human just how ridiculous the notion was. No survivors in 5,000 years. Now, this human with black hairs hanging down to his eyes and brownish skin that offers no protection thinks that he has a chance to reach the summit. Insane. Even if you somehow passed the ice flow, you'd have to climb the glass cliffs where not a handhold can be found. You'll plummet to your doom and smash upon the rocks below. Hakra raised a clubbed appendage and pointed it at the small human. You will not make it to the top. I disagree, Derek replied. I can do it, and when I do, I'll receive my reward. Hakra laughed again, the table nearly fell over from the force of his mirth. The other patrons glanced over, some with a dozen eyes, others with stalks that sensed vibrations. All of which were curious to see why a human and a Vortic were talking, especially in a place like this. Humans were rarely seen outside of their cells. To see one walking around free was unusual. But one inside of a bar in the center of Forsyth, that was unheard of. Human, your joke grows stale. Quit while you're ahead, Hakra stated flatly, his mirth vanishing in an instant. This is no joke. I want to try my hand at climbing the mountain. Derek wasn't going to back down. I will climb Zod, and I shall have my reward. The massive blue alien raised a clubbed arm to his face. Tiny cilia extended out from its interior and massaged the wrinkles on his face. The fumes that the frustrated alien was holding in his pores extruded into the bar. To Derek, it smelled like barbecue. Then again, he had no idea what that smelled like either. He had never eaten barbecue, nor any earth dish. Like all humans, he had been born and raised in captivity. Eric had simply been lucky enough to have a kind master that freed him upon his passing from this plane of existence. Most of his species could not claim such fortune. Not after the great loss of their homeworld. Alas, the past could not be changed. Say you did it. Say you made it past all of that. Hakra was exasperated now. This human just couldn't be made to see reason. You'd still have no choice but to challenge the Jupik to combat. Its 10 arms would shred your limbs and tear your body in twain. Its massive teeth would rip off your head before you had a chance to scream. Its wings would span the horizon and block your view of the sun. And you would die in darkness. The human nodded. Vorn may not even exist, human. He could be a legend. For how suicidal his feat was, he may as well have been. Hakra made one last plea. You will fail, as they all have. You will die, as they all did. You will be forgotten, as they all shall be. No, Derek replied. I won't. Now, would you bring me there, or not? Hakra shook his massive head. He reached for his flask and took another drink of the fuming contents within. When he had finished the entire thing, he eyed the human for many minutes in silence. Yes, I shall take you, human, he said finally. But I shall not bury your bones. Fair enough, Derek replied. When do we leave? The alien smiled, revealing rows and rows of sharp spines. Well, that depends, human. When do you want to die? Hakra was beginning to enjoy this creature. Perhaps humans were not so bad after all. Foolish beyond measure, but perhaps not all bad. Well, I have no interest in living forever, Derek replied in even tones. So now would be fine. Gordaktakita, you're truly serious. You really want to do this, don't you? Hakra felt amazement well within him. You'll die, you know. I'm serious. You can't take anything with you to the top. That is, save for what the monks at the base of Zod give you on your journey. Perhaps, but if I make it, then I get everything, Derek replied, a shimmer flashing behind his eyes. It was many hours later when the small dropship landed. They had rowed in silence across the vast darkness of space. The human had gone into a sort of trance, and Hakra had not tried to interrupt. How much do I owe you? Derek asked as he stepped out onto the moon's barren surface. Zod loomed in the distance, so high that it scraped the heavens themselves. For this? Hakra asked. Nothing. He paused. Actually, the massive blue alien changed his mind. An answer. I'll need a question to give you that, Derek replied. What would you ask for if you make it to the peak? Hakra asked with the slightest twang of wonderment. The only thing worth having. Derek turned and began to walk unhurriedly towards the great stone monastery where the climb would begin. Earth. Hakra shook his head. He didn't understand before, but he was beginning to now. These humans, were unlike any other species. They were relentless. Human. Hakra shouted after the departing figure. Derek turned and faced the alien expectantly. Good luck, Hakra said softly. The human nodded. Thanks, the small creature replied. I'll see you again on the other side. Perhaps on Earth. Perhaps, the alien replied. He secretly hoped that it would come true. What a thing that it would be, to really make it to the top of the mountain. I suppose you'll never know if you can, unless you try. Hakra watched the human go until the door of the monastery closed behind him. Then, with a mighty sigh, he climbed back into his dropship and jetted back off into the void. With the human gone, it felt just a little bit more empty. I'll see you on Earth, Hakra said, though no one could hear. I'm sure that I'll see you there. The author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.